action comes thick and fast in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. Just 2 weeks after Hockenheim, the teams are back in business here at the Valencia circuit in Spain. And it is the penultimate weekend of Sprint Cup. Some titles could be decided here. Bronze most definitely, as that will not run at Zandvoort. But as far as the overall gold and silver contests are concerned, it's never been more important to score points and score well. 39 cars are set to do battle around the Valencia circuit as well. Of course, the European Championship, part of the global Fanatec GT Tour, and a 10-event series in Europe that began in Monza and will take us all the way to Zandvoort in mid-October. There is, of course, a sprint and an endurance championship, as well as the combined. In Pro, you can have any category of driver, and it's shaping up to be a battle between Matteo Drudi and Riccardo Ferrer's Audi and the Mercedes of Raffaele Marcello and Timur Bogoslawski. And the Mercedes drivers come here with the championship advantage. The Audi drivers come here after a win last time out at Hockenheim. Whether this is going to be an Audi or a Mercedes circuit remains to be seen, but Ferrer and Drudi will give it their best shot. Of that, you can be certain.
I think in Hockenheim we did quite a good job. It was a shame for the penalty we got in race 2, because I think we could have been close to the Mercedes in race 2 as well, but still, I think the gap with the car 88, it's much smaller now than it was before Hockenheim, so I think it's a good start. Our car fits quite well in Valencia normally, so we'll try to do the same this weekend.
Albert Costa is the only Spanish driver on the grid, and his Emil Frey Racing Ferrari could well be a car suited to this circuit. And Albert Costa, we know, is a fast and fiery driver. He's one to watch on home soil.
I'm always fighting for top 5 with a new car. For us, it's a new car, no? As well, I'm also learning a little bit. Hockenheim was a pity that I lost the pole position for almost nothing, but it's the rules, and I have to accept. At the end, in the race, I passed the first lap 15, and I went to P3. So it was really, really good. Really happy with the performance. Now home race, I really want to do good because we deserve it as a team, as a teammate with Thierry. So I'm gonna fight hard because I really want this win and podium for this race.
The championship leaders are Raffaele Marcello and Timur Bogoslawski. And Raffaele Marcello, as expected, is going to be a force to be reckoned with around here. Very rapid in the practice sessions on Friday. Class pole position in qualifying. The Mercedes may well take a lot of stopping.
First of all, it's important to finish the race. I mean, we know we have a quick crew, so ideally we could finish every race in top 5, 6, and it is always good points. Then, I mean, we also have to look the overall. I mean, we have a big lead there, so it's important to finish races and score points.
The Gold Cup, which caters for gold and silver graded drivers, has delivered some great racing all season. Alberto Di Folco has been one of the star drivers, and the Boots and VDS Audi team one of the top teams as well. It could well be that another victory beckons this weekend in a very competitive class.
Yeah, it will be very tough till the end, just 8 points to the BMW, so the goal here for me, the team and Aurelian, of course, is to make a double victory, so we will try our best. For the moment we are in good shape, we will see.
The Silver Cup has delivered lots of good racing as well, purely for silver drivers looking at the next wave of GT talent. Owen Zanotti is one of the drivers in the category, and it's always good to see the Honda NSX on track too.
I think that the objective this weekend, as always, is to try to win the class, the silver class. We will see what we can do and try our best. It's my first time in Valencia, and it's also the first time of this car in Valencia. So we are still learning the track and all the little tricks, and we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
Lorenzo Petresi has had a really good season in silver, sharing the Audi with Alex Harker. And the two young guns have been victorious more than once this season. Petresi is a quick learner. He's a quick driver as well. Another win could happen.
This will be my first race weekend here. I already tested here last year before actually starting to race in the GT World Challenge. It's already 3 rounds that we're fighting, and it will be for sure a good fight till the end.
Another man to watch in the Silver Cup is the Japanese driver Yuki Nomoto. He drives the Lamborghini Huracan from the VSR team, and this weekend he's got a new co-driver in Maximilian Powell. But always, Nomoto is quick, and he's going to be in the fight within the Silver Cup for sure.
Well, obviously, I have Maximilian Powell as my co-pilot, who is very strong, former DTM winner. So of course, we're trying to fight for the win. Let's see, obviously for podium for sure. And yeah, we need to fight for the championship.
It's the final weekend in the championship for the Bronze Cup, where you have to have a bronze graded driver, but he can be paired with any grade. And Hubert Haupt, one of the most experienced racers on the grid, is looking for honours.
To be honest, we are looking more on the overall championship. That means endurance and sprint together. And in the moment we are second. I think we are missing 7 points, so I think we still have a good chance to win the championship.
Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez could well lead Spain as Bronze Cup champions, with this being the final round for the class of the season. The McLaren has been very rapid all season. Ramos is hugely experienced, and he's an AM plus, if you like. He's a very quick bronze graded driver, and Enrique Chavez makes a good partner for him. They could be champions.
We were very competitive in Misano. Hockenheim were nowhere. Let's see if we can recover some competitiveness here and try to win.
Alex Malikin hasn't been racing for that long, but he's done a lot of miles in a short space of time, and he's looked really racy all season in the pure racing Porsche. He's another man to watch in the Bronze Cup.
Yeah, this is first my time in Valencia. I had one test day before season, but it's first official weekend in Valencia for me. Yeah. But my teammate is very experienced and very quick guy. I had Jan Guven, and he showed me a lot of secrets, and I'm ready.
The sun is shining, the road is dry, the grid is formed, racing is not that far away. Welcome everybody to sunny Spain, to race one of the weekend in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. Long pit straight, lined with fans, and we have a very full grid all lined up, ready to go for 60 minutes of racing. David Addison and John Watson trackside. John, there's a lot in this lap, lots of tight corners, some fast bits as well though.
Very busy racetrack, 4 kilometers, 2.4 miles. There is the view, a magnificent view here of the Valencia. It's at the Autodromo. And there we see, again, the tracker trying to beat me once again, doing a lap, 14 turns. The fastest part of the circuit, of course, is that start-finish straight down into turn 1. Overtaking opportunities, but be wary. You can get caught out.
And of course, track limits is always a major feature of this circuit. Of course, it is very, very popular with motorbike racers. Therefore, you have those low curves. Therefore, car drivers take liberties. And track limits has been a factor across the morning in the qualifying sessions. And it may well be that if people persist, there'll be penalties come the race as well. Now, on the grid, pole position to this car, Dennis Marshall. He, of course, was excluded from the second race at Hockenheim, and that's still being discussed. But here, he bounced back in style. Pole position. It's a Bronze Cup car. Now, Dennis Marshall, we know, is absolutely dynamite quick, but with respect to his bronze-graded co-driver, Andre Mukovols, it is unlikely that that's going to stay up at the sharp end in the second stint. However, a class win is what they're after. But alongside is Raffaele Marciello. He starts in 88 Mercedes, and crucially, John, he's ahead of the number 40 Audi, the Matteo Drudi Riccardo Fella car, which is their title rival.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting battle, because it's the teammates to Drudi and Marcello that really are going to hold the outcome of the fortunes of either of those two cars. The 40 Audi, I would say, has got the better overall balance in terms of equality of performance. The 88 has got Raffaele Marciello, which of course is, you might as well say, a god. But his teammate, Timo Boguslawski, who, if he's handed a car in the lead, can bring it home and take the checkered flag. If it gets embroiled in a battle with other cars, then he finds that more of a struggle to make his way through. So on balance, the 40 Audi, if it can stick with the 88 at the start, it'll be interesting to see, once the pit stops have been passed through, who will come out on top.
Green flag wave then. Cars set off on their formation lap. The last opportunity to get a bit of warmth into the Pirelli tyres. We can have a look at how they line up, with Dennis Marshall then starting on pole position. Raffaele Marciello with him at the front of the grid. Lining up third, Thierry Vermeulen, and then alongside is Constant Lapalainen, ahead of Fred Vervisch and Gilles Magnus to round out the top 6. 7th is where you find Ayhan Guven. Enrique Chavez lines up alongside him, ahead of Christian Klein. Riccardo Fella goes from 10th. Work to do. He's ahead of Nikolai Kiergaard and Lucas Legere. Christopher Mies, 13th, ahead of Nicholas Krutem. Charles Weerts is way back, 15th, and it's Father Yves' birthday this weekend. Jim Clark comes next ahead of the Silver Cup Championship leader Jordan Love. Cesar Gazo is ahead of Robert Renau and then Erwin Bastar. Alex Arca, twice a winner I should say this year, is next ahead of Misano outright winner Valentino Rossi. Then triple winner Alberto Di Falco in the Gold Cup. Stephen Palette is next ahead of Christopher Zirkling and Yuki Nomoto. Jeff Machiels is taking over 52 with his dad this weekend. He's alongside Paul Everard and ahead of Sebastian Bode with Andrea Caldarelli, one to watch. Welcome back to the championship, but he's only 30th ahead of Thomas Neubauer and Jacopo Guidetti. Fabian Schiller 33rd from Adrian Delina, Sean Hudspeth, and then Jesse Salmonaudio. James Kell makes his World Challenger GT3 debut. He's 37th ahead of Baptiste Moulin, and it is Owen Zanotti who rounds out the grid. It's going to be very busy indeed. John has already made the point, 14 corners. There's a lot in this lap. I suspect we might see a safety car.
The other interesting little note, after looking at timing and scoring and qualifying this morning, there are 31 cars in this 39-car field covered by less than a single second. BOP is doing its job.
Absolutely right. So we know that the first corner is where people tend to run wide, and then you've got the sort of turn 2, 3 elongated hairpin. That could well be a pinch point. There are other parts on the lap that will be a pinch point, and John's remark earlier about the co-drivers to Marcello and to Ricardo Fella being the key to the outcome. Well, we know that if there's a safety car and everyone bunches up, that's going to put Timo Boguslavski on the back foot, whether the safety car comes in his stint or indeed in Lello's stint to begin with. So the Acodis ASP team will be very much hoping this is a clean, green race all the way to the checkered flag. And there, Jérôme Policon with Timo Boguslavski looks on. We are about to go racing here at Valencia then. The pace car as it is will dive for the pit lane. This is Yuki Nomoto's view as he comes out of turn 14 onto the pit straight. The drivers work their way up towards the lights, which are on red. The race director will give the call. Now they go green. Good start by Marshall. And the Ferraris get either side of Marcello on the run down towards turn 1, with Vermeulen on one side, with Lapalainen on the other. And the Mercedes is going to get shuffled back in the pack, potentially. It's down a third. Marcello tries to fend them off. One has got by. He's wide up a curb. Dennis Marshall is away and gone, and there's mayhem in the background.
Not surprising, about 4 cars rotating, some on the inside of the corner, some on the exit on the outside, so hopefully they'll all recover. We won't need a full course yellow.
There's an Audi in the gravel, though, on the inside of turn 1. I reckon we are going to get a safety car as Marcello goes up into second at the expense of Vermeulen, and Vermeulen fights back on the inside line there, can't do it. So Marcello got shuffled back at turn 1. He's out wide. He's in the gravel there. That's just impeded the progress a little bit as they come up the hill. On the inside line, he tries to fight back there at turn 6. Forces Vermeulen out wide. Dennis Marshall trying to break away. But Raffaele Marcello is in a motor race, all right. He's very busy trying to fend off Vermeulen. Up now into 4th place. Look, has come the Audi number 12. That's Fred Verviche. He's had a really good first lap, hasn't he? So Fred Verviche up from the 3rd row to 4th place. The cars dive down the hill then for the first time. This is the look on the outside. Safety car deployed.
Yeah, not surprising. Unfortunate, was inevitable, I suppose. So safety cars deployed, all the good yards done by Dennis Marshall, who was able to break clear and free of that battling group of 5 cars directly behind, led by Marcello. So in effect, we're going to have a restart to this race when the track has been cleared, but it will be a single file restart, and therefore maybe not quite so hectic as it was going into turn 1 on this opening lap.
So it all kicked off at turn 1. Some went out wide, and I think a Mercedes got caught up. I can see one car in the distance that's, it's a BMW, isn't it? It's one of the, now is that the Nicholas Cruz and Callum Williams car?
I think it is.
Which is significant. Now looking at the one on the curb, first of all, and I say it's significant because that leads the Gold Championship.
So that car isn't going anywhere, and that is a big disappointment for WRT to have that car immediately out of the race in turn 1 on the opening lap.
And the other one that's in the gravel on the inside is Cesar Gazo's Audi. So they're both out of the Gold Cup, but there you've got dramas, and with 2 cars stranded, you can see why the safety car has been required. So that throws the Gold Cup into the air, doesn't it, with the championship leaders out on the first lap of the race. That's your race leader, Dennis Marshall. Raffaele Marcello 2nd, Thierry Vermeulen 3rd, Fred Verviche 4th, Constant Lapalainen 5th, Einstein Guven 6th, ahead of Gilles Magnus, Ricardo Fella 8th, progress being made, Christian Klein 9th, and Enrique Chavez in 10th. Right, talk us through this, John. Let's see what happens.
Okay, good start by Dennis Marshall, but the two Ferraris try then to sort of make the Mercedes the meat in the Ferrari sandwich. Ferrari to the left, Ferrari to the right. But I tell you what, Marcello, he is outstanding. He managed to fend off one of them into turn one, and then midway round. But where did that contact begin to take place? Well, it was that midfield pack. Now, I don't know what the problem with the... I'm just trying to think Cruden's Mercedes is. It didn't look as if it had been hit, but it's sitting there off the side of the racetrack, going nowhere. This is a replay of the start, and you can see how far the Ferrari got his nose ahead of the Mercedes. Remember, there's another Ferrari to the right, so he has to wait and tuck in, runs wide on the exit. But Marcello has got the better line up into turn two.
I was wondering whether or not Cruden's car, the Callum Williams, Nicholas Crutten BMW, hadn't been tagged by Charles Weirt's car. Let's just have a look. Oh, no, he was further back, but he got involved with Christopher Mees, didn't he? The Weirt's car arrived on the scene a little bit later, but does this tell us anything? This is Yuki Nomoto's view. Yeah, there is contact there. I wonder whether Weirtz didn't hit the Audi, which then hit Crutten.
It could be, but certainly the BMW didn't hit Crutten, but he may have used the Audi as the snooker ball to tag the back of Cruden's BMW.
Let's have another look. Yeah, Crutten's sideways, the Audi is sideways, and the Audi on the inside of Gazzo spins into the gravel. So there was certainly a little bit, and the race start is under investigation, so the officials are trying to unravel who clipped whom.
I think Dennis Marshall might be receiving a penalty for, I don't know whether he anticipated the light going green or he went when the lights were still red, but clearly he got a significant advantage while the other three cars are behind, held back or appeared to hold back.
Christopher Mees, I think, was nudged by more than one. I think he also got done on the inside, possibly by McLaren. So it was just a messy start, I'm afraid. Lots of people going for the same bit of real estate.
39 cars, opening lap, turn one, all compacted together. It was inevitable there would be some form of contact. I mean, the damage to the Audi, basically, it was in the gravel. It couldn't get out of the gravel. The BMW, we don't know what the damage is. There's nothing that looks to be obviously bad enough to stop it running, but clearly the car has got to be removed from the circuit. It's being removed, I think, as we're speaking. So we're still in the safety car chain as we ride on board with second place Raffaele Marcello. And there we're looking inside. That's the 27 that's been brought in. That was a car that was rotated. Yeah. So was there damage to that right front, or maybe can't really tell at that angle.
Yeah, Mees, I think, got a tap in the tail and a tap in the sides. It may well have done suspension.
Well, Christopher Mees continued around that opening lap, but he came in to the pits at the end of lap one, so that's why the car, we didn't see that. It wasn't a car that stopped on track, that's what we're trying to say.
So right now, it is the Bronze Cup Audi that leads overall. This Porsche of Ayash and Guven is second in bronze, 6th overall, and 3rd in bronze, 10th overall, Enrique Chavez. We're still behind the safety car, but I think this might be the last lap because it looks as though the road is clear down at turn one. Says Gazzo's Audi has been retrieved, and that's going to be put in a safe place. And of course, because it's had mechanical assistance, it can't rejoin.
No, so the safety car is still on track, whether it comes in at the end of this lap. We're looking to see any notifications to say it will be in. I don't see anything as yet. So it might stay out for this lap. I will stay out for this lap, but maybe for one further lap to ensure the track is back in a condition that is appropriate to let this race get underway again.
So Marshall is the race leader. And like a lot of Audi drivers, of course, will be on the job market at the end of the season. Audi Sports customer racing programs will be disbanded. There'll be a lot of people looking for drives. It's going to be interesting to see where they all end up, and names that you've associated with Audi for many, many years, you could find in different brands and different teams, which will be fascinating to see how they translate to something different. So right now, Raffaele Marcello is in second place. But this safety car period does not help, of course, to stretch the margin over any opposition for him. It also enables Riccardo Feller a chance to gain more places on the restart. Having said that, could enable Marcello to try and jump Marshall on the restart.
Correct, that's my thought, because I think this is going to be the easiest, or let's say relatively easiest, opportunity for Marcello to get ahead of the race leader, Dennis Marshall, in the Audi. And if he can pounce early in this restarted opening lap, we've seen what he did with the two Ferraris that were challenging him. He made short shrift of that, and I would think he's got the same thought in mind with Dennis Marshall.
Indeed so. But, of course, Dennis Marshall will be able to control that restart. The safety car did stay out, as John was predicting, so maybe this will be the last, he says optimistically, but we'll know when the lights go out. So we're behind the safety car. We're on lap 5 of this 1-hour race. Replay of the start once again.
Safety car in this lap.
Safety car in this time, you just heard.
I mean, I don't know whether anybody's looking at Dennis Marshall's start, whether that's what's under investigation or not, or whether it's just that start in general.
Have a look on the inside. Have a look for the 159 Nikolai Sheargard McLaren. That gets sideways and I think just touches Mies, who goes around and takes Crutten with him. And Sheargard, Mies and Crutten are the ones being looked at. So the McLaren did get involved on the inside, not deliberately I'm sure, but as John made the point, 39 cars all going for the same bit of tarmac, something was going to give. And we did predict pre-race there will be a safety car, but we've had it early, we had it at the end of that first lap. This is lap 5 and we're going to go back racing this time. So Dennis Marshall coming now up at the top of the circuit, out of turn 7, drops down the hill, a long left of turn 8. And it'll be up to him to control the restart. Safety car still with its lights on though, coming in this time.
So there is the turn out, being removed now safely behind the barriers, and the lights are out, as you predicted, David. They've got to get that car onto its 4 wheels again, and then that vehicle, that recovery vehicle, whether it will stay in that same position until it's then needed again, hopefully not needed again, or whether it has a place around the racetrack it has to go to before the race will get underway. But whatever the reasons are, the safety car lights are out. Now this is where Marcello needs to be right on his toes, because Thierry Vermeulen behind him is doing that very thing with Marcello.
Green flag waved, we're back racing then as the cars now accelerate towards the line then. So Dennis Marshall it is who leads them through. Raffaele Marcello not being able to stay with him, and that Ferrari of Thierry Vermeulen is right on his tail as they dive down to turn 1. Marcello, remember, is leading his class, so for points that's still good in terms of the race, though an awful lot can yet shake out of it as diving down towards the first corner there is Charles Witz, and Valentino Rossi is trying to get up the inside of the Lamborghini there. That was Caldarelli and he couldn't do it. That was for 21st.
That was the MotoGP line that Rossi was taking. And coming down that tight on the inside, not a lot of room to get the nose of the car into the corner, but he got through cleanly.
So there, 188, 10th place, Enrique Chavez. But up front, Dennis Marshall is trying to stretch that lead once again, isn't he? Trying to build that gap over Marcello, who's got the Ferrari behind him of Thierry Vermeulen. And where is Riccardo Feller? He's still in 8th place then, so we need to keep an eye on the Attempto run Audi. And Riccardo Feller is trying to edge his way forward. In fact, he might well have gained a spot on this lap. Yes, he has, because Christian Klein there falling back slightly in the pack as well. So Feller is on his toes. He's pushing forward.
So Marcello, I thought, would have been closer to the back of Dennis Marshall than he proved to be. He's got his mirrors right now full of the Ferrari of Vermeulen, and directly behind him is Fred Verbiche. And then the second of the Ferraris comes to Lamborghini. And so there we see the cars coming into turns 11 and 12, 2/3 of the way around the lap. Race leader, the gap when they came across the line just 1 lap ago was 0.6 of a second, probably much the same. And I think Marcello, oh, look at the Porsche getting up alongside the second of the 2 Ferraris. And that is going to be a horsepower drag race down the straight into turn 1, and a great move by Goven.
And going with him, look, is Riccardo Feller. 3 wide, almost into the corner. Riccardo Feller squeezes up the inside. Guven has gone by. Feller through as well. Great opportunistic move. Lapalainen is coming back at him on the inside line at 2. But the Audi just stays ahead. Great racing.
Very good. And I mean, overtaking at the very edge of having contact. So good job indeed by Feller and by Goven to get themselves up through the field and begin a process, particularly in the case of Riccardo Feller, up to 7th place. Getting ahead of the Porsche going to be a more difficult task. You can see the straight line performance the Porsche had against the Ferrari. Almost runs into the rear of the Porsche, and that just coming out of turn 6 now, this run through turn 7 into turn 8. Again, a corner where we have seen overtaking take place in the past. Defense from Feller from the Ferrari directly behind, who wants to get that position back.
Dennis Marshall, in the meantime, building the gap up front. So here you've got Riccardo Feller trying to push forward, but he's racing against a car that really isn't in his race, because the Bronze Cup Porsche will fall back in the second stint. But right now Feller is losing time by being stuck behind Guven, who's doing nothing wrong. He is driving flat out. He wants to be as far up the order overall as he can possibly be for his co-driver, ready for the pit stops. Christian Klein there is on the tail of Gilles Magnus to try to fight back on the inside line. That's Riccardo Feller, the nearest rival to Raffaele Marcello in the championship, in the Sprint Cup Championship, that is Audi number 40. So Marshall, Marcello, Vermeulen the top three. Verviche fourth, Guven is fifth, Lapalainen sixth, Feller sixth, Lapalainen seventh, and then it's Magnus, Klein, Chavez.
A battle at the back of the field, and that Valentino coming now is going to take the traditional car line into turn one, but has to concede to the 60 Lamborghini. That's Andrea Caldarelli running all the way down 21st, 22nd. Valentino up the inside. Will they have to lead? He does have to lead on the Lamborghini. Andrea, and that's tire rub on that left front. So what will be looked at? Well, that will be looked at, but it's two pro drivers on one another. But that'll be a big disappointment for Caldarelli to know that that tyre is being rubbing into the bodywork. Hopefully, it'll be the bodywork that suffers and not the tyre too much.
That Lamborghini, though, has really not had the pace all weekend, has it? It was a brave effort by Rossi, and he was crowded a bit.
He was, and in fairness, Valentino found himself being squeezed, and that's the outcome of it. So Andrea Caldarelli, who was not quite so quick on a turn 5 as Rossi was, went defensive, and that's the consequence.
So we'll see whether the car is bound for the pit lane, as right now Denis Marshall leads Raffaele Marcello, who dropped back a little bit in sector 1. He's dropped back a little bit in sector 2. We're only talking hundreds, but the gap is creeping up ever so slightly. Remember, the pit window is between 25 and 35 minutes. And Raffaele Marcello, you can anticipate, will do the lion's share, as will Denis Marshall, because they're the quicker drivers in those top two cars. Thierry Vermeulen runs third. And then in fourth place, Fred Verviche doing a good job. So you've got two Audis up in the top four. And Aintje Guven's Porsche in fifth. He's doing a dynamite job.
Absolutely. But what's impressive, Denis Marshall, the reason he's opened up at a 1.4 second gap over second place Marcello is because he's also set the fastest race lap of 1:31.8. And that is, I'm just trying to have a look and see, the lap record here, 1:32.6. So I think that's maybe a new lap record.
Yeah.
That lap record was set in 2021 by Raffaele Marcello, and I think Marshall has rewritten the record books of that one.
Well, right now, Raffaele Marcello is pushing, and Thierry Vermeulen has just done an absolute best in the first sector, in the third placed Ferrari. Tyres up to temperature, fuel load coming down, cars getting quicker, and also I think I'm right in saying that back in the race is the number 10 Audi. He's been allowed to rejoin, so Cesar Gazzo is still going, hoping he can do enough laps to be classified and therefore gain points.
It's an interesting situation that car has been allowed, because it was clearly lifted away from the track by one of the recovery vehicles. So maybe there's been a decision to let it restart, or it's just restarted on its own free will.
Well, right now, there Guven is second within bronze. We've not yet really touched on gold. Gilles Magnus leads the gold, and in silver, Jordan Love in 15th place. Number 99 now looking at there is Alex Arca. Big move up the inside of James Kell goes Adrian Delina, and James Kell fends him off. That's brave stuff going into 12.
Yeah, I mean, on the inside, Porsche had to concede. The line that the Lamborghini was on was clearly the quicker line. Nevertheless, there was an opportunity, but James Kell decided he was going to brave it out, and he did so.
Over the timing line they come then, as Marcello has now done the fastest lap of the race. The gap is 1.4 seconds between the leading Audi there, Denis Marshall, Raffaele Marcello, who I thought had just locked up. Thought I saw some smoke.
I was going to say there was a puff of smoke came, I think, from the Mercedes. What will be interesting now is between now and the next, where are we, a few minutes before the pit lane opens, is will there be any denigration of tyre performance on either the Audi or the Mercedes? We know the Mercedes traditionally is very gentle on its tyres. We're not sure. Riccardo Feller, look at them trying to find a way around the Porsche. The Mercedes traditionally is very easy on its tyres, and on this kind of circuit, the rear tyre takes a lot of punishment. So whether the Audi's pace leading can sustain, we've seen now a new fast lap from Marcello, so maybe that's an indication there's a change or shift in balance in terms of grip over one brand than the other.
Marcello using a lot of curb. You can see how the lap times are. Marcello has done the fastest from Marshall. Thierry Vermeulen the third quickest race lap thus far. Guven the fourth, and Verviche the fifth fastest as they come up now towards the line. Valentino Rossi now onto the back of number 25, and there with Bastar. Contact again there, another little bit of a rub. And that opens the door, and Valentino Rossi goes through. Well, I'll tell you what, he's learned about racing, hasn't he? He's not afraid to get his elbows out.
I know, absolutely. I mean, he's been more aggressive here, I think, than I've seen him at all his four-wheel career. And certainly he decided there was no prisoners to be taken. He made the move, it was assertive, and that's what you have to do. You have to be positive. When you're going to make a move, execute and move on, and that's what Rossi has just done.
The incident between Rossi and Caldarelli here, a lap ago, or 2 laps ago rather, has been noted, so whether anything comes of that, we'll find out. But right now, the officials have been made aware of it. There is third and fourth, Vermeulen ahead of Vervish. And they're pairing off a little bit. You see the cars stream through. Jordan Love running in 15th of the blue Mercedes. In gold, it is Gilles Magnus ahead at the moment of Alberto Di Folco. Magnus 8th and Di Folco 17th overall.
Slight gap between us and the gold category, but I'm not surprised that Magnus is in 8th position. He was very good in qualifying. He's been very good all year.
Very good. Front-wheel drive touring car racer as well before he came to GT3. TCR was able to dovetail the two last year. Right, so now Guven is under attack again from Ricardo Feller, who of course by being stuck is losing touch with the main opposition for him, 88 Mercedes. He would like another safety car at some point to bring them back into the mix. So yeah, Guven is not really in his race because that's a bronze car, but right now he can't find a way past. So the gap is widening between Marcello and Feller.
Indeed, and the Porsche's got that straight line speed advantage, I would say, here, not necessarily every racetrack, but here over Ricardo Feller. Where Feller may have had a little bit more downforce, but he's not able to get himself sufficiently close up until now. And he's got to worry about the Ferrari level landing directly behind him. So if he makes an error, the Ferrari will be all over the Audi. Look how wide Feller runs coming out of turn 2. That's going to be careful. You need to be careful because if you run too wide in certain corners, you will get the attention again coming out of turn 4 through 5. It's the exit of 5. It's everywhere around this circuit, the curbs are virtually flat. So Lorenzo Patrese getting himself prepared.
Yeah, because we're not that far away from a pit window. We've had 20 minutes of the race, even though quite a chunk was under the safety car early on. And you're riding now with Ricardo Feller, who is trying to force a mistake out of Ayhan Guven, who ever since he arrived on the sport, the Turkish driver has been a Porsche specialist, whether it's been in endurance races, whether it's been in Porsche Super Cup, for example, or the other one-make Carrera Cup championships like the German series in which he was a champion. Very, very good Porsche peddler indeed is Ayhan Guven, and you can see that now from the way he's repelling Ricardo Feller. There, 69, Thierry Vermeulen will give way to that man, Albert Costa. Gets himself ready, and he, in a few moments' time, will be behind the wheel. And they've still got a good chance.
Yes, they have gap, by the way, 1.7 seconds. First to second, it might change momentarily. It's down by about 1,000th of a second. So the gap between first and second effectively is the same. But look, here's the Porsche directly behind Ricardo Feller. Just can't get sufficiently close to the back of the Porsche, even to think about making a pass into turn 1. Probably better to do it up into turn 2, but easily defended by the Porsche. Down the inside, has he got it done? Ricardo Feller has made that pass. Bit of bodywork flicks off the rear of the Audi or the front of the Porsche, and the Ferrari now again back into contact with Guven in. So this battle now is going to be for 5th and 6th. And Feller has made it through, and once he's gone through, he's going to be gone.
He is indeed. He'll be hunting closer and closer to Raffaele Marcello. And of course, in this championship, with the exception of the bronze cars, which do have to do a pit stop to a time, the pit stops, the driver changes, the wheel changes are what you might call a natural pit stop, as quick as you can do them. So the emphasis is on the pit crews. That's another area in which Feller could gain time against Marcello, or indeed lose, depending on how the pit stop goes. Here was the move.
Yes, he went up the inside, and Guven, in fairness, although he was in the middle of the racetrack, gave him space, tried to come back, and I'd say, I don't know whether that bodywork flicked off the Audi or off the Mercedes. In fairness, that was Guven giving space and allowing Feller to get through cleanly.
So 9-11 Ayhan Guven still runs second in bronze, which is the focus. They're not really hunting for overall points in this. They want Bronze Cup points, and that's going to be resolved this weekend. It's the final brace of races in bronze because of the number of garages available at Zandvoort. There has to be a limit on the number of cars, and the only way to do that really is to take away the bronze category, which is the less strong numerically of all of the different classes within the race. So bronze doesn't go to Zandvoort because there's no space in the pit lane. Feller 5th then, and now that he's got a clear racetrack ahead of him, he last time around in a 33.4. It should be quicker this time because he's got fewer cars to dive past.
So the gap between Feller and Verveesh is 2.8 seconds, as it was when they came across at the end of lap 13. Dennis Marshall, in the meantime, once again has reclaimed that the victory or the honour of being fastest race lap to date, 1:31.396. So he is still pushing absolutely to his limit to open that gap. It's just 1.9 seconds. It's not a comfortable lead, but he'll take it any day of the week.
So Marshall to Marcello, 1.9 last time around, and we are only really a couple of minutes away from the window opening. So Dennis Marshall, you can anticipate, will stay out for as long as he can. Marcello the same. Vermeulen, I would imagine, will be in a bit earlier to give way to Costa. Verveesh will probably do a long stint, and Ricardo Feller, it'll be interesting to see how they divide this up. One argument is get him in now because he'll be out of traffic.
I think I would bring him in now and get rid of all the traffic around you to try and reposition yourself that when you put Matteo Drudi in, he gets out in relatively clear air, and then he can do all the good yards, hard yards he needs to do. That when the 88 Mercedes makes its pit stop, that's where the overtakes may actually have occurred more in the pit lane than necessarily on the racetrack.
When I say now, I mean at the start of the window, because it's a minute away from opening, as there you see Fabian Schiller dive up the inside of the Sebastian Bode red Audi, and Bode hangs onto the place, just gets his long nose in front. Look as they come across the line, but Fabian Schiller has the inside line on that long straight down to turn one. The Honda ahead of Jacopo Guidetti. They break for turn one, and Schiller goes through. Stood his ground, made the move.
Yeah, but he's vulnerable on the inside coming into turn two. As well, hopefully not going to be a tag in the rear of Schiller's Mercedes. But anyway, that was all about position, and Schiller made it work.
Schiller back up the inside, goes through, runs Bode out wide, and also nipping through on the inside line there. 2 places, in fact, gained by the Ferrari. So that was very opportunistic stuff by Jeff Machiels. He's gained 2 spots out of it and stays ahead up at turn 7.
Yeah, that was good read by Jeff Machiels to see that. He was watching that battle with the Mercedes, saw that they were leading in one another, and saw the opportunity. The gap appeared, didn't need to be invited twice.
The Mercedes still battling. Pit window is open, so it's going to be interesting now to see who dives in. It's not Dennis Marshall because he's just gone across the line. It's not Marcello, he's just gone across the line. And there, Fabian Schiller still stuck on the back of Sebastian Bode, waiting for an opportunity to try and strike back. He's been ahead of him once. Verveesh into the pit lane out of 4th position. He's the first of the leading group to come in, whereas Ricardo Feller stayed out.
Interesting that Verveesh comes in of the first of the Audis and that leading top 6 group. Feller automatically goes up to 4th place, but he's now at 4.1 seconds behind 3rd place for Mullen. So the last lap time for 1:31.8 for Feller, 1:31.5 for Marcello. Yes, so there's a couple of tenths of a second of a lap time difference between the 40 Audi and the 88 Mercedes.
So into the pit lane also Christian Klein, Nikolai Schiergaard, Charles Witt, Alberto Di Folco there, Owen Bastard in, Baptiste Moulin, and Sean Hudspeth, the Singaporean driver, in as well. So this is Dennis Marshall. So this 10-minute window, I want to try and time this so that he comes in towards the end of it, maximising the time available to the gun driver, Dennis Marshall, for the race-leading Tresor Attempto squad. He is a platinum-graded driver. There is Raffaele Marciello behind him. The gap still hovering around the 1.9 second mark.
Interesting, looking at the lap times and the best lap of these leading group. The last lap and the best lap of the lead car is within 0.2 of a second. So, I mean, they are not sitting around going for a Saturday afternoon run here in Valencia. This is hard driving from those leading group of cars.
It's been a very bad pit stop from Christian
Feller in.
Yeah, Ricardo Feller in. A good pit stop at the moment, 46.5 seconds, 61.5 from the McDonald's clean McLaren. So something went awry in the pits for JP Motorsport, and this is a crucial pit stop for number 40.
It absolutely is. This will either make or break the positions overall. If they can get this car turned around, Tracer, get it turned around, get the driver in, or get the driver out, then the driver in. So we'll have to watch and time and see what the pit time is for the number 40 Audi. The clock is ticking. It's 25 seconds already. The car from the podium came across the start-finish line, or the pit lane entry line. And now we've got to get that car rolling. It's still up on the jacks. Off it goes now. Matteo Drudi So still waiting. 40 seconds have passed. The best time we have seen is a 49 seconds from Nicola Bayert in the 12 Audi. So what's it going to be?
49.9.
Yeah, that's well, it's in the ballpark. Yeah.
It's certainly better than a 61, but it's not as good as the, what do we have, 46.5. Now, Marcello has done an absolute best in the first sector. Dries van Thor has had the best pit stop time, 46.5 seconds, and he's at the wheel of 32 BMW. So that car has now been released, and we'll see what Van Thor can do, because suddenly that has come alive, even though it's got traffic around. And here, Mathieu Drudi is pushing.
He needs to push. He's got clear road, well, relatively speaking, a car further up ahead of him, but he's got certainly 2 laps in which he can push on fresh rubber with a lower fuel volume on board the car. Everybody's got the same amount of fuel.
The stop cycles through. That's the very badly delayed Cesar Gazzo and now Adam Ateki Audi, which is effectively 8 laps down after its early delays.
You can see the residue of the pig and the gravel on the previous sets of wheels and tyres. So the Ferrari in likewise.
That's third place car. That's Vermeulen to give way to Albert Costa. Vermeulen does his job. Down it drops, runs away.
Hold. There's a car coming. There had to be a void, a non-safe release in that situation. Marcello has taken about 1/10 of a second out of the advantage that Dennis Marchal has. They're in a different race, these two, in terms of their categories, but still it's a frustration, I'm sure, for Marcello to know that even 1.8 seconds behind, there'll be a small amount of aero influence.
Right, now there, look, is Albert Costa, who has stayed ahead of Mathieu Drudi. He's maintained track position, but the gap has come down between them. So that pit stop for number 69 was 51.6 seconds, whereas for number 40, Audi, we had it at 49.9. So another couple of seconds effectively pulled back in the pits. Not for the first time this year, I'm afraid, losing time in the pit lane.
No, you cannot give away time, especially in these sprint races, and particularly on a track such as Valencia, where you've got a lot of corners. It's difficult to build your momentum. So all the good work done now by Riccardo Fellow to get the car up to the tail of the Ferrari has been improved upon by the team doing a smart pit stop and change to get him ahead of the Ferrari.
Fastest lap of the race, Patrick Niederhauser, who's taken over the number 25 Audi from Erwin Bastard, and the Santalop car, quickest car on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, but it's in 31st position, albeit they've had a pit stop.
Yeah. So it'll shuffle itself about, as that is Constantine Lapalainen giving way to Giacomo Altway. I think also diving in Jordan Love. He just caught a glimpse of the blue Mercedes. The car was leading in silver, both in the race and Jordan in the championship.
Interesting, a lot of purple sector time is being recorded. Maxime Martin and the Rossi BMW as fastest first sector. Christopher Hauser in the Audi, likewise second sector purple, and then Niederhauser got purple in the third sector. So a lot of purple sector times being flagged up on timing and scoring.
Right, that's Marcello. He's brought the gap down by a bit, like under 1/10. So he's closed slightly, but not enough to be a factor for the lead, and the window is starting to be pulled closed. In other words, he's running out of time, as is Marchal, to make the stop. They're both going to do one more lap, certainly. Just under 3 minutes of the pit window remaining as across the line then. So Dennis Marchal's last lap was a 1:31.7, and 2 thousandths quicker to a lap time was Marcello in second place. However, 7/10ths quicker are the likes of Maxime Martin and others now.
Yeah, Martin's got the new fastest lap, is up the inside. Clean overtake for Matteo Drudi. The Porsche really didn't make an issue of it. Likewise, when Marcello catches to the rear of the Porsche, he'll hope for the same kind of cooperation.
Mathieu Drudi is lapping on the same sort of pace as these cars at the moment. Did a 31.5 last time, even though he's on new tyres, of course. Here is the next fight to keep an eye on. Albert Costa getting himself onto the back of Nicholas Bart's Audi that he took over from Fred Vervish, and he has a rather cheeky look at the inside line coming out of turn 13. No way through there. So heading up towards the line they come, Audi versus Ferrari. And behind them, I would suggest Mathieu Drudi actually is dropping away. He came out nearer to the Ferrari, didn't he, after the stops, but that gap has widened.
It certainly has. I mean, at one point you were almost kissing the rear of the Ferrari. Now the gap has opened up to nearly a second and a bit. So Timo Boguslawski stands ready for Marcello to bring the Mercedes 88 into the pits. going through turns 11, 12, then the long curve of 13.
So Nicholas Bart, for the moment, is being able to defend from Albert Costa. And we'll see where these cars blend in relative to Mukovoz and Boguslavski. After the pit stops, there's a big dive on the inside for Albert Costa. Has he got the move done? Just about. He's up the inside. He forces Nicholas Bart wide. Albert Costa leans on him again. He's not quite clear, and Nicholas Bart doing his level best to hang on to the place on the outside line, but the Ferrari's going to go through.
Yeah, all he's got left is the undercut on the exit of the corner, but the Ferrari has that covered. And as we were just about to talk about it, here we are, 88 into the pits. Just one of those inevitable moments when you cut when there's a bit of excitement going on, but we saw all of that excitement. And there is the 88. Marcello will get out from second place. Boguslavski gets in. So this will be the principal pit stop in terms of the outcome of the race, in terms of who's going to stand on the winner's podium, because the 66 lead Audi will fall back once Dennis Marshall gets in.
And there's your next wave of cars coming out of turn 14. So the Mercedes is on the move, and it's going to keep the lead, and that, I think, is going to set Boguslavski up nicely, isn't it? Because look at the gap that he has been able to get over the opposition. So there in second place is Albert Costa. Third is Nicholas Bart. Fourth, right back with them, is Mathieu Drudy. So I think he can gain one place before the end. But now we need to see what the gap is between the top two, and indeed whether Costa can lap quickly enough to catch the Mercedes.
Don't think so, but you know what, Boguslavski has clear air, and the gap we're looking to see, well, waiting for the reset, take one more lap for that reset to give us the true situation. 25.5 minutes or so of the race remaining, and I'm quite sure that Matteo Drudy is going to find a way around the Audi just directly ahead of him, because he is Nicholas Bart behind the wheel. Drudy will be the quicker of the two.
I agree. Albert Costa, absolute best in the first sector on this lap.
Yeah.
So Costa now is pushing while Boguslavski gets himself up to speed. This is Mathieu Drudy, who again for the championship somehow has got to get ahead of that Mercedes, but he's first got to clear Nicholas Bart's Audi then. Into the pits has come Marchal, into the pits has come Guven, and in also Chavez and Plat to give way to their co-drivers.
So Feller losing all his momentum again. He needs to clear Nicholas Bart as early as possible, whether there's any cooperation from the big Audi family members or whether they're just going to say, boys, sort it out on the circuit, it's up to you two to get on with the program. But there will be a frustration. So now opportunity may arise out of 14, out of the start-finish straight, down into turn one. But that gap, although the camera makes it maybe further than it actually is, it's still a big gap to run down, and the straight here in Valencia isn't sufficiently long. Oh, wobble from Bart. You can see the car back end snapped. He had to steer into it then. But again, I don't think that Drudy was in the position to benefit from it. Closes up going into turn 2, runs very wide on the exit, then the flick through 3, then another major break down into turn 4.
Boguslavski to Costa, 7 seconds. So up the road from this fight, the lead gap is coming down a little bit. Mathieu Drudy presses on.
So the Mercedes pit stop was 47.9 seconds. And others around them had really slow ones, some of them well over a minute. So 47.9 is not as quick as the WRT was or Christopher Hassan's car. They come to be.
Right, Boguslavski has dropped half a second, if not more, in the first sector alone. Getting a replay here of an incident lower down the order. So 10th place.
That's Finlay Hutchinson, isn't it? 21.
Yeah, 21, you're right. So in super slow-mo, you can see the Audi's working, and then a big, big dive up the inside by 99. Alex Arkin out the wheel of that car and moves himself through, picks up the place against the ComTU entry.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sensible overtake, because the quicker car, it signaled I'm coming through, the slightly slower car acknowledged that and gave space, so no contact and no real issues.
So that was for 15th overall. Alex Arca, sorry, now Lorenzo Petresi, forgive me, ahead of Finlay Hutchinson. Right, Boguslavski is currently 6.3 seconds ahead of Albert Costa, so the gap is coming down. Last lap was a 32.1 for the Mercedes and a 31.3 for Costa. This is the fight behind. It's still going on between Bart and Drudy. Now, Mathieu Drudy trying every which way. He's running out of patience and he wants to get through. He's going to get a bit rough, I think, in a moment, because you can see the frustration. He's almost up the inside. Is there contact there? I think there is.
Well, it doesn't get any closer without contact, and one might say on the entry there might have been a bit of a lean. But finally, the pass has been made. And Nicholas Bart isn't about to give it up easily. He was passed by the Ferrari in a similar position some laps ago. And he may want to repay any light contact. But now that Drudy has gone ahead, immediately you can see the gap has fractionally widened. And now that he's got that advantage back to him, then his eyes will be in the back. But the Ferrari, it's almost a full length of this short straight out of turn 10 into 11 and 12.
There is no doubt, though, that Costa is catching Boguslavski for the lead. Sector by sector, he's finding 3 or 4 tenths. Now, Drudy up into 3rd place, released. There's the leading car. There's the Ferrari behind it. So as they come over the line, that lap for Boguslavski, 1 minute 32.1. Albert Costa behind him, comes up, breaks the beam. 1 minute 31.2. The gap is down to 5.4 seconds. It's about 9 tenths a lap now.
And if he needed any motivation, that's Albert Costa. He has it. He's racing in Spain. He's the only Spanish driver here in this race this weekend.
So Boguslavski knows that it's important to bank points, but he can't just give places away if he's being caught, because the car behind this one is his championship rival Matteo Drudy, and Drudy's last lap was a 33.2, so he's not catching as yet.
But you can see Albert Costa, the pace the Ferrari has, virtually in every corner, just simply carrying a little bit more speed than the Mercedes is doing. Down into, so there is our race leader, Timo Boguslavski, 5.4 second advantage when he came across the line.
Car 111, car 188, 5 seconds time penalty added to the final racing time for disrespecting track limits.
That's JP Motorsport and Garage 59, both McLarens. So Matteo Drudy is 4.9 seconds behind Costa. Biting the fingernails, Raffaele Marcello sitting in the pits. He's done his job today. It's now in the hands of his teammate. Last time through 5.4 seconds. What will it be? Will it be below those 5 seconds as it comes across the line, waiting for it to come up on timing and scoring? 4.5 seconds, first to second position.
And with 20 minutes still to go. So it's game on, isn't it? Very definitely now, as Timo Boguslavski knows that the gap is coming down. A rather nervous Raffaele Marcello continues to gnaw away at the nails. Christopher Haase, by the way, is up into 4th. He's got past Nicholas Bart as well.
Another sort of sleeper in this race is the 32 BMW, the lead BMW, Dries van Thor behind the wheel. He's only a second now behind Nicholas Bart for 5th position. So it's another little battle. That will be an interesting one to watch. Lorenzo Patrese leading the silver category in the 99 Audi. In 11th place, his nearest challenger is Alain Valente in the 77 Mercedes in 14th. And the lead gold category is Finlay Hutchinson in the 21.
Now, 188, of course, was on that list of cars being penalised by the race director, Alain Adon's voice you heard. 188, their confirmation among others. And, of course, that is the car leading bronze in the championship. Miguel Ramos at the wheel of it, trying to catch Alex Malikin in number 911 Porsche, but whatever he does, you've got 5 seconds to add at the end. There is Albert Costa in Sector 1, 3 tenths quicker. Sector 2, 2 tenths quicker. So this should get the gap to be under 4 seconds by the end of the lap if he carries on that pace through the last sector. There's also traffic, of course, now.
Yes, one of the Ferraris, of course, the Ferraris now between the Mercedes and the 2nd place Ferrari and Albert Costa. So I assume that will be a very straightforward overtake for Costa, and he can then once again laser in on the back of the lead 88 Mercedes AMG GT3. Timo Boguslavski behind the wheel.
There is 188, that's Ramos then. So this is the car leading bronze in the championship pre-race, 3rd in class at the moment, and with a 5-second penalty to add on at the end. And the car that it's chasing is Alex Malikin's Porsche. Leading bronze is Bukovoz in the Audi that Dennis Marshall led the race with outright early on. There is going through Alex Malikin, Marco Mappelli behind him. Last time we saw Mappelli and Caldarelli in the Sprint Cup together was back in 2019 at the Hungaroring when they won the championship, that last race there. So Mappelli has kind of come good in a sense on the pit stops. They've moved up the order a bit, and there's the potential for more places to be gained before the end as Alex Malikin runs 2nd in bronze. Now, as far as the lead is concerned, I was wrong about the gap being under 4 seconds because it was 4.076. Mappelli up the inside of Malikin job done. Pro passes bronze, or overall denomination passes bronze, and that puts the Lamborghini now up into 16th place. Maxime Martin has done the fastest lap of the race, and there is Ramos hunting down Malikin.
Well, there we go, on board with the 188. This is on board of the McLaren. So through turns into 9, then cut back for 10. Down the gear, and then just pick up the throttle, try not to run too wide on the exit. Then the quick flick through 11 and 12. Back to our race leader. Gap was, it is 3.8 seconds. So another couple of tenths of a second out on that last lap as well.
You can see how the gap has been coming down and down and down. 3.8 seconds now. So it's coming down, not by quite the same large increments, but it is coming down. Vanthor is up into 5th place now at the expense of Nicholas Bart. So the BMW up into 5th place. Didn't really sparkle in the early part of the race, but an early pit stop has certainly worked in their favour. Dries Vanthor still pushing on. So Boguslavski, 3.8 seconds to the good. Lost another couple of tenths in the first sector. 16.5 minutes on the clock there. Third is Drudy, and he is also lapping quicker, but only by a tenth than Boguslavski.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not making inroads into the Ferrari in second place. He's running quicker than Boguslavski, as is Costa in the second place Ferrari. They're coming nearer to the lead car, but they're not between the Ferrari and the Audi. That gap's been more or less around the 5.5 seconds since the respective drivers took over.
Well, 2 back markers up the road ahead of Boguslavski that he will catch within the next 2 or 3 laps. The background, Maxime Martin, sorry, I'll tell you a lie, the background is the Lucas Leggere Christopher Hauser Audi that's running in 4th place. Maxime Martin has done the fastest lap and is still in 8th place. So there is the 3rd placed Audi. There's the leading Mercedes then. That is Boguslavski who goes through. Second is Albert Costa, and the gap is 3.4 seconds. Count down a little bit more. Long gap back to Mathieu Drudy. Second to third, 6 seconds. 4th there, yellow and blue Audi Hauser. Behind him, red BMW 5th, Vanthor. 6th is Bart, 7th is Altway. They're 8th, Maxime Martin. Best lap of the race to his name. And now we've had a change for 9th because Benjamin Goetter's McLaren has got himself ahead of Mukavos, as also has Patrese. So in 10th place is the leading silver entrant, which is Lorenzo Patrese. 11th is the leading bronze of Andre Mukavos, and then 12th is the leading gold, Finlay Hutchison. And they're going through as Miguel Ramos. That's the leading silver then. 10th overall now, Lorenzo Patrese. And Dennis Marshall's car with Andre Mukavos on the wheel is behind, leading bronze. So the Attempto run Audis together on track, different classes in terms of points scored.
Yes, and a good teamwork by both teams. I mean, Dennis Marshall set that car up for Mukavos, and the difference in pace between the 2 drivers is clear. Also, they didn't have maybe the quickest of pit stops, and that might have cost them some positions. But it's all about winning your class, and that is currently what the 66 Audi is doing, running behind the sister car, the 99 of Lorenzo Patrese.
So there are the bronze leaders then. Mukavos at the wheel, the 66, which is still doing a good job in 11th place overall, not really being challenged by any other bronze opposition. Malikin 2nd, fending off Ramos for 3rd in bronze. In gold, there is Finlay Hutchison, 12th overall, going well. And he's got the silver category Mercedes of Alain Valenti right up behind him. Valenti thinks about a move on the inside, dives for the inside, goes through.
Yeah, I mean, again, sensible driving by Hutchinson. He saw a car that's not in his battle, and he didn't attempt to try and make it difficult. He gets the benefit coming off the corner because he was slightly quicker, tries to pick up speed, but unfortunately for the Audi, the America's just taken the centre ground and gets the choice of line into turn 1, and that's an overtake. But 2 cars racing, but racing in different category.
So there is Hutchison there, having taken over from Gilles Magnus, leading his class. And he's got quite a gap, hasn't he, over Simon Gachet, because Finlay Hutchison 13th overall, the class rivaling Audi of Simon Gachet 23rd, so he's got a big buffer in hand as far as class positions are concerned.
I mean, it's a shoe-in for their class, and that was all set up again by Gilles Magnus, doing a great job at qualifying and getting away with that lead group of cars, then handing over to Finlay Hutchinson, who's taken over and consolidated their class lead.
Now the lead gap, 4.8 seconds. Last time around, it was a slow lap by Costa. Like, he dropped over 1.5 seconds. Now, was that traffic or was that a moment? Albert Costa, we need to keep an eye on this. He may have had a moment, but the gap has gone up to 4.8 seconds.
It could have been both. It could have been a moment and traffic.
True.
You know, stranger things have happened.
So there's the gap. Let's see whether it comes back down again. There is traffic up the road once more. 4.8 was the margin, and 4.3. So it's come back down again, but a lap ago, and a bit of a twitch there this time for Albert Costa. A lap ago, he lost some ground, I think, at turn 1.
So Albert Costa, here we go, here's the replay of what happened. Coming into turn 1, enters the corner, watch the steering, whoa!
So that's where he lost the time, yeah.
Significant amount of time as well.
But then the following lap, as we saw, he had a little twitch. So what does that tell us now about tyres or about the setup of this car? Was that just an aberration, or is this becoming a thing?
I think everybody at the front is running to the maximum of their own ability, and the cars, whatever's left in the car, however the tyres are. So, but the point was Costa, he made that error in turn 1, but is able to recover quickly. But even more important is Boguslawski's got through the slower traffic relatively quickly and cleanly. So the gap was 4.3 seconds when they came across the line. Lap 29, they're on lap 39. It'll be interesting to see whether that gap has remained or has increased in favour of Boguslawski.
So the Ferrari then in the first sector, 2/10 quicker. Sector 2, 1/10 quicker. It's harder now to pull back the time, isn't it? Boguslawski lost ground on his early laps, but now he's in a rhythm. He might be losing a bit, but not by as much. He's sort of stabilising that gap. In terms of the fastest car for speed, Thomas Neubauer, 257 kilometres an hour, matched by Valentino Rossi, and the next fastest was the number 32 BMW when Charles Wirtz was driving it. BMW, 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 all hitting the numbers for top speed.
I bet you Charles Wirtz is saying, why am I the slowest of our 4 WRT factory BMW cars?
Well, there is in 17th place Jean-Baptiste Simonin. He's got ahead of Alex Malikin on this lap, so another place gained. What this does look is drop Malikin closer to Ramos, so we're getting for second in bronze on track, a battle developing. So whatever happens on track, I've mentioned it already a couple of times, don't forget Ramos has got that penalty post-race, but he wants to attack, he's got to attack, because
Absolutely.
He needs to be ahead, come what may.
He needs to be ahead by over 5 seconds, and he's probably got about a second and a bit behind the Porsche, so Enrique Ramos now running a helmet very similar to what a driver in America would do in an enclosed car. It's bleeding cool air into the helmet. We saw Miguel Ramos really suffering in the extreme heat down at Misano a month and a bit ago now. So he will be feeling a lot more comfortable.
5 second time
even though it's still
penalty
ambient about
added to the
27
final
Celsius.
racing time for disrespecting track limits to car 18, 68, 87.
None of which affects the leading battle, as you see there. An effort being made on the inside line by number 54 Porsche. Christian Engelhardt goes ahead of Ramos. That's quite bad news for Miguel. It's not a car that he's racing in class, but it does mean that he's, again, further away now from the bronze opposition. Right, the gap is down, top 2, 3.6 seconds. Just look as he bounces over the curb. Albert Costa has got that car by the scruff of the neck. You can almost hear it whimpering as he comes past us.
Well, whimpering, if that was a dog, you'd be put in jail for treating it like that.
Albert Costa then, still hustling on. There's the leader, Timo Boguslawski, and look, coming up on more traffic. This offers perhaps another lifeline for Costa.
And I think this is the opportunity Costa has been praying for. We've got 8 minutes and 50-odd seconds on the clock. He needs now traffic to interfere with the pace of Boguslawski, to let him get up to the tail of the Mercedes, and then see what's left in the closing minutes, whether he can actually effect an overtake. But as the clock ticks down, it's sort of going more favourably towards Boguslawski, although he's got cars ahead of him, and he may not be as, let's say, effective in overtaking back markers as we know Albert Costa will be.
Yeah, it just depends, doesn't it, how hesitant he is in the traffic. Come what may, Matteo Drudi is going to have to settle for third place, and they're way over the curve again is Albert Costa. All whimpering from the Ferrari, comes down towards turn 13 then. In the first sector of the lap, 4/10 pull back, in the second 2/10 pull back. So that should get the gap down to around about the 3-second mark. There over the line, Boguslawski got the Boots and VDS Audi just up the road. He's put a lap on the Porsche there, and the margin between them is 3.065 seconds.
But there will be traffic again. Costa's got to find a way around the Porsche now. Boguslawski will look forward to see who is my next car that I can use. It's like a game of chess. You're using the cars as like chess pieces to basically block a move or restrict a move from Albert Costa.
Costa over the curbs then. 3 seconds was the margin, give or take those 65,000s. That was Drew going through in third place. Christopher Hauser still runs fourth ahead of Van Thor and then Bart in sixth.
So Matteo Drudi in third position, 4.5 seconds behind the second place Ferrari, and seemingly unable to eat into that pace the Ferrari has. Thierry Vermeulen looking up at the timing and scoring and thinking, is this going to be a stand on the podium, the centre point of victory? Or is it just going to be the clock is going to beat us? 7 minutes on the clock remaining.
So this is the view for Albert Costa. Needs to get past the Porsche, which is just up the road. That's the car of Stéphane Denoil, and he should be able to pounce here, coming up towards turn 13. The Porsche stays on its line, gets out of the way. Costa goes through, 2/10 quicker in sector 1, half a second quicker in sector 2. This is on.
And more crucially for Costa, he was given the racing line into turn 14, so he didn't lose any of his momentum, which is often the case when you catch a car, maybe at turn 14 or any corner around the racetrack. So that is good news for Costa.
2.3 seconds is the margin. I tell you, if Albert Costa doesn't catch before the end, and the end is only 6 minutes away, he will rue that lap where he lost a second and a bit down at turn 1, won't he? Because that could have been absolutely critical. That could, in the end, save Timo Bogoslavski. Down now towards turn 4 comes the Ferrari. This is up towards the end of the first sector. And we'll see what the margin is.
5-second time penalty added to the final racing time for disrespecting track limits to car 28 and car 60.
That's the Honda. Nova Race at 60 is VSR. That's Marco Mappelli. I've never known Marco Mappelli ever do anything like that.
Shows how he's going to wring the neck of the car, maybe. A 10th down in sector 1, so Costa closes by a 10th.
And I don't know whether Bogoslavski's eyes are even bearing to look in the mirror. Once you start looking in the mirror and you see a car that's chasing you down, there's almost like a psychological effect that you almost want the car to catch it. You know, it's one of those weird things when you're driving. Too much thinking isn't a good thing.
Albert Costa is on his final track limit warning. So it's all very well us getting excited about him closing, but if he carries on running wide, he may well cop a time penalty. That's okay. 2 wheels in contact with the racetrack. The gap was 2.3 seconds when they came across the stripe last time. 5 minutes of the race to go, and the margin now between the top two is down to 1.8 seconds. Albert Costa is still absolutely charging.
And you can see those 3 last laps, half a second, 3/4 of a second, 6/10 of a second. And you've taken lumps out of the lead of the Mercedes with what, 1.8 seconds and 4.5 minutes remaining. It's certainly doable to catch, but whether it's going to be doable to find a way around, when you get to this stage in the race, I think Timo Bogoslavski will be acting in the, lockup. That was a lockup for Albert Costa. Doesn't need to do that kind of thing. Flat spots or tire, you get a lot of vibration coming through the steering as a consequence.
Well, in the first sector, he was again a 10th faster. And to the eye, the gap looks less, doesn't it? Because that dot up the road is getting bigger. In other words, he's closing on the Mercedes, and the Mercedes in turn has got more back markers. Brake hard, turn down here through the elongated hairpin at turn 8. Heading up towards the end of the middle sector, Raffaele Marciello forces a smile.
He's got confidence, yeah. Bogoslavski. He knows what, just under 4 minutes remaining. It's a job done. Thierry Vermeulen, all pumped, but a young man looking forward to a great career. Now, that's where Bogoslavski needs to be careful, and Costa running very, very wide coming out of turn 11.
And not much pull back by Costa in that middle sector, but let's see what he can do now, because in the third sector he does look brave. The gap when they crossed the line last time was 1.8 seconds, 3.5 minutes to go. I don't think he's going to get there in time, but it's not for the want of trying as Costa comes through. 1.8 it was, and this time 1.4. Bogoslavski just about hanging on to this. They've got time for this lap and certainly one more. Costa needs it to be this lap and 2 more.
It does. I mean, all that Costa can hope is that the Audi directly ahead of Bogoslavski isn't cooperative. In other words, it holds up the Mercedes and then gives the run towards Albert Costa. And he's just running every bit of the racetrack he can get away with, and hopefully that will not be a penalty. But coming out of turn 5, up the hill into turn 6. Almost again, as I said earlier in this stint, the Ferrari just visually looks quicker pretty much every corner around the racetrack.
There is the car leading in gold, 15th overall, Finlay Hutchison. And the Audi, the ComTU car, is ahead of Simon Gachet's Audi. So Finlay Hutchison here on target for a first gold sprint victory of the season, taking that car over from Gilles Magnus. This is the bronze leader, André Rucavos, who took it over from Dennis Marchal. They are in 16th place, just one spot behind the Hutchison Magnus car. Behind Jean-Baptiste Simonel's BMW looming over the Audi and looking to try to make a move on the outside, going up towards the top of the hill. And right with them as well, it's Christian Engelhardt, and it all gets a bit busy.
Yeah, 3 into 1 will not go up at turn 6, but Engelhardt has been making a charge all the way through his stint, making up a considerable amount of ground from having a car that was well and truly outside of the top 20 when he took it over.
The leaders have just gone by. It is 1 second between them, and we've got time for 2 laps. This and one more. So the race leading gap is 1 second and 55 thousandths. And they've already been nibbled away by Costa coming up towards turn 3. So it's going to be a last lap lunge potentially by Albert Costa to get the lead, but he's not quite caught the Mercedes. He's catching, but he hasn't caught yet.
No, and it's a clock is counting down just 1.5 minutes to go. So through turn 5, and this is again up the hill. This is where the Ferrari, I think, looks especially good. Seems to have good turn in, seems good traction off turn 6. And again, the same issue for Boguslavski. He got 2 cars directly ahead. What he's maybe trying to do is just judge his own pace. He doesn't necessarily want to catch the 2 cars before the checkered flag comes up, because if he can maintain a good enough pace, then the advantage might still lie with them when they come up to conclude this lap. There's 52 seconds of the race to go.
Bear in mind as well that Albert Costa not only ran wide and lost time after that slide, but it was also a slower pit stop. They lost about 3 seconds with what Thierry Vermeulen thinks was a malfunction of something in the pit stop. So you bring those 3 seconds back into play, that Ferrari should be ahead. But look, starting the last lap, they're going to be absolutely nose to tail. Here's the Mercedes out wide. Costa is smoother and quicker.
Yeah, so will that be something that gets the attention of race stewards, race director? But it's a battle, final lap. I would imagine there will be no action taken.
Half a second is the margin, down to turn 1. So Albert Costa, even if he gets on the back of the Mercedes, where does he make the move? He's going to have to be so opportunistic, and it will have to come at the end of the lap, because that's when he will have done the catching. But he's right there.
Out of turn 6 into 7 and turn 8, that is the part of the racetrack, I think, that the final opportunity for Costa will arise. So here we go through out of 4. Now watch through 5. This is the chance Costa needs to make work. The car is good out of 5. It's very good in 6, but he's not close enough to get alongside and have a run into turn 7, then the tighter part of turn 8.
They're coming along this back part of the circuit. There are back markers up the road, and Boguslavski doesn't really want to catch them on the last lap, but he doesn't want to back off the pace to avoid catching them, because then he'll fall prey to Costa.
The Ferrari is so much better going into turn 8. It can hold a much tighter line all the way around. Now, how about looking up the inside? Throw it down the inside, Albert Costa, but you were just that little bit too far back.
Right, so he's running out of corners. There are 2 to go, really. It's got this flick of 12, which isn't an overtaking opportunity, and the move has got to come here. 13 to 14, he's not quite close enough. He needs Boguslavski to break a bit earlier or to make a mistake. The Ferrari's closing. Out of turn 13 into 14, onto the pit straight. Timur Boguslavski is just going to hang on in there. Mercedes versus Ferrari to the line. Timur Boguslavski and Raffaele Marciello win in Valencia. Second, Albert Costa and Thierry Vermeulen. And the margin at the end, 0.380 of a second. One more lap, Costa would have done it. Had they not lost 3 seconds in the pits, he would have done it. Had he not run wide in turn 1, they would have done it. All those ifs and buts.
Ifs, ands or buts. And Timur Boguslavski crosses the line. First thing he does is open the driver's door to get all that hot air out and try and get some
5-second
fresher
time
air in.
penalty added to the final racing time to car 71.
Which is Nicola
disrespecting track limits.
In another of the Silver Cup Ferraris. Right, there to win in gold is Finlay Hutchison and Gilles Magnus' Audi. Finlay Hutchison brings it across the line, so good result for the ComTU team, having the first victory of the season for that combination within gold in sprint, and a win in silver for Lorenzo Petresi and Alex Arca, which for them is a second win of the year. And then also in bronze, Dennis Marchal and André Rucavos, victors there. So Raffaele Marciello did what he had to do, set Timur Boguslavski up for the win.
I think that was Thierry Vermeulen who came up to the Mercedes pits to say congratulations, good race, did all we could, you did better than us in the pits, and you know, good sportsmanship between two rival teams.
Lorenzo Petresi, Alex Arca, just to clarify, 4th win of the season, forgive me, in silver. There they are, 2 young drivers. We've seen, with respect to the start of the year, the odd mistake, but actually over the course of the year, the mistakes are fewer and further between, and that's a more competitive car outright.
Yeah, and that's called experience.
Yeah.
I mean, Lorenzo Petresi, I think, is 17. I'm not sure what age Alex Arca is, but he's certainly much more than about 20 or so. So lots more opportunities and a long future for both.
And there, Finlay Hutchison and Gilles Magnus can celebrate a gold victory. And Gilles Magnus doing a really good opening stint. Finlay Hutchison bringing the car home. Good solid run that to maintain that gap. And fending off the Simon Gachet Audi for 2nd in class. So Raffaele Marciello makes his way up the pit lane with Riccardo Feller. But for the championship, key result that for the Mercedes team.
Consolidation. So good job indeed by both the Audi team and by Mercedes to get the job done. There is our race winner, and I think Timo Boguslavski will be more than happy to get out of the cockpit. It's warm here, it's humid as well. Track temperature not particularly high, but there's the ambient temperature that's the tiring element.
Well, there is Timo Boguslavski, who gets better and better season by season, and this year by doing sprint and endurance he's doing more miles, whereas last year just doing sprint he didn't actually have a lot of seat time.
And he's also wearing one of those helmets. You see that sort of trunk coming off the back of the helmet? Well, that is there. You've got a pipe in the cockpit you're going to attach to your helmet to get cool air, but look at his face. He knows he's had a good workout, but he did a good job. That's all he was asked to do, and he's delivered for his team.
So there's a winner's hat. And Raffaele Marciello will join his co-driver. And there you've got the winning gold class Audi. Cars in Parc Fermé. And we can have a word, I hope, with our race winners in a moment. Gemma Scott is down there. We have Timo Boguslavski. Raffaele is on his way. And we'll hear from Lello in due course. But Timo Boguslavski is there, a delighted race winner. Gemma.
Timo, I think you must need a drink. That was hard work. You must have really felt the pressure of Albert closing in on you.
Yeah, I gave all, I think, when I was having. Also this track, I have a quite bit humidity, I think, so this was quite hot for me. So, but Lello, yeah, did a good gap, so as always, and yeah, it's 4th win, I think, yeah, 4th win in the sprint. Is the 4th our win in sprint? I don't know. I mean, yeah, so yeah, make even more now gap for the points for the winning the championship. So yeah, I'm big fans to the team and to my teammates, so as always.
Absolutely, Lello. We saw you watching on, biting your nails at one point, and then just relaxed. I think you knew he had it, right?
When Timur is driving, I'm never relaxed.
What's it like for you watching on then?
No, I mean, for sure it's a bit annoying when I always make a big gap and then the gap is always coming down, but it is how it is. For sure to win the championship or score big points, we also need him. So I mean, tomorrow he has to do a good quali, so I don't know what will happen, but yeah, I hope everything will be good.
We know what happens when you're in the car, and that was a great stint. Thanks, Lello.
Gemma, I think you've just got quote of the season out of that. Fantastic. So it was their 4th win. Raffaele might not be counting, other people are. And the race winners then, Timo Boguslavski and Raffaele Marciello. And Timo doing what he had to do. Doesn't matter whether you win by 1,000th or by a minute, as long as you win. And the margin, 0.380 of a second. Another lap could have been a different story. Better pit stop for the Ferrari team could have been a different story. But the story ends up with Boguslavski and Marciello as race winners. In silver, Lorenzo Petresi and Alex Arca, the winners. Lorenzo Petresi, I think, is with Gemma Scott. Alex Arca is on his way. Our silver winners here at Valencia.
Alex, come and join us, come and join us. You guys are clearly very happy, and so you should be. This has been a fantastic start to the weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has. We did an excellent race. Alex did a good job in the start. The guys did an amazing job of the pit stop, and yeah, we managed to got it. I'm really happy. We did a good job. I'm proud of ourselves, of all the team. I mean, 2 wins and 1 podium overall. It's just great.
Absolutely, and Alex, of course, you're looking rather calm now, having had time to just breathe after your stint. But you know, it was a frantic start to the race.
Well, it was quite important for me to calm it down a bit. It was quite warm, but yeah, other than that, it was a good race. Lorenzo did a really good second stint, as always. I mean, good job by the team, as he said already. And yeah, we're back at it. It has been a tough time the last 2 races for us. We thought we were better than we actually are, but I think now we're back to where we deserve to be. It's just everything I want to say.
Absolutely, congratulations to both of you.
Alex Arca, Lorenzo Petresi are silver victors from Jordan Love and Alain Valente. So the silver competition is looking pretty good with tomorrow's race and then 2 more at Zandvoort still to go. Finlay Hutchison and Gilles Magnus are gold winners and 14th overall. Good effort by the Comtu team. Finlay and Gilles are in the pit lane with Gemma.
I think that's one of the most exciting races we've watched this season, and a fantastic result for you. Finlay pushing really hard right to the end.
Yeah, happy to get our first win in sprint. We've had a lot of podiums together, but it's a really nice way to start the weekend, and hopefully we can keep this form for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. Gilles, of course, you know, you started the race, and tomorrow it's all up to Finlay for the qualifying, but hopefully getting this through to another similar result.
Yeah, exactly. Really happy with the win. We both did the job we had to do. Finlay stayed out of trouble, kept the car on track, and yeah, super happy with this victory. Let's see what we can do tomorrow, but I'm sure he's going to do a good job, and let's hope we see each other again on the podium.
I hope so. Take care. Thanks a lot.
All smiles then, the gold winners. And let's just confirm the results of that race then. Raffaele Marcello, Timo Boguslawski, the winners by 0.3 of a second from Thierry Vermeulen and Albert Costa. Ricardo Feller, Mathieu Drudi, third, ahead of Lucas Leggeret and Christopher Hauser. Up to 5th, Charles Witt, Dries Van Thor, and then 6th, Fred Verviche and Nicolas Bart. 7th, Constant Lapalainen and Giacomo Altue from Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin, who did the fastest lap of the race. 9th, Nicolai Schiergaard and Benjamin Goethe. And then 10th, Alex Arca and Lorenzo Petresi. They won silver, the winning gold, Gilles Magnus and Finlay Hutchison, and the winning bronze, 18th overall, Dennis Marshall and Andrei Mukavos. They were ahead of Einstein Guben and Alex Malikin just behind. Let us hear from Dennis Marshall and Andrei Mukavos. Dennis started from pole, of course, and came through for a class win.
Congratulations, guys. That's a class win for you. It's been a great start to the weekend, and you're both arguing over who's more tired. Alex, we'll come to you first.
I thought he, because he made 35 minutes of 25 or 50, and for me it was just a small job to bring the car home.
A small job of bringing the car home, but in the right position. Dennis, that start was quite something.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I have Lello next to me or behind me, so with Lello it's never easy, but I think I could pull quite a good gap in the beginning. Car felt really great the whole day, from the morning till the race. And yeah, I think we could finish the class win off, thanks to the team. This guy, really happy. 3 class wins. No, actually it was third overall. Silver win and bronze win, so good day for the team.
It doesn't get better than that. Well done to you guys. Head off to the podium.
The photo bomber, as it were, Arkin Arca, the man behind Attempto Racing, Alex Arca's dad, and a very proud, very happy team owner. Let's look at the highlights then. It began with Dennis Marshall sprinting away from pole position and Raffaele Marciello being crowded a bit by the Ferraris. He dropped to 3rd place going into the first corner. It didn't look all that promising with the Ferraris around him, but Marciello rebuilt the lap as there was mayhem behind that involved Christopher Mies, it involved Nicholas Crutzen, it involved Loris Cabarou's car that he shared with Cesar Gazzo, and on the restart, Valentino Rossi at the inside of Andrea Caldarelli. A bit of a rub, but the BMW went by. 1 or 2 early pit stoppers included Charles Witt to give way to Dries Van Thor. They got 5th in the end, and then Albert Costa was on his toes. Elbows out, he was carving his way through the traffic, picked a place past Nicholas Bart, and kept on charging as he closed and closed and closed on the race-leading Timo Boguslawski. The gap came down, but not enough, as further back, also pushing, was Mathieu Drudi as he squeezed his way past Nicholas Bart round about the same part of the racetrack. He went through on the inside line, and Bart dropped another spot. That gave 3rd then to Drudi and Feller, 2nd Costa and Thierry Vermeulen's Ferrari. As up front, Timo Boguslawski and Raffaele Marciello led. Costa had this moment down at turn 1. They also had a slower pit stop, and despite the acrobatics over the curbs, there was just nothing he could do. He ran out of time. He ended up 0.3 of a second back from the race-winning Mercedes. It was nose to tail at the flag, but a victory for Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marciello in here at Valencia. So for the championship, Raffaele Marciello and Timo Bogoslawski extend that margin over Matteo Drudi and Riccardo Fella. They need a much better run tomorrow. They need to be ahead and be ahead by some margin at the end of the race. Dries van Thor and Charles Wirtz are next from Lucas Legeret and Christopher Hauser, Thierry Vermeulen and Albert Costa, 5th from Valentino Rossi, and then Maxime Martin behind. Now the podium should be underway. There are the third place drivers, Riccardo Fella and Matteo Drudi. Frustrated that it was only third. A happy second, home hero Albert Costa, and Thierry Vermeulen, who's developing very nicely into a really good GT driver.
I'm very impressed, but he's got good, natural pace. He's not shy to stick his nose when there's a gap appearing. And of course, he's got Albert Costa there as his sort of the expert and experienced sort of senior driver.
And the race winners, Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marciello, climb onto the top step of the podium here in Spain for the French Acodis ASP team. So the French national anthem for Jérôme Policon's team, Acodis ASP, and the trophies will be presented in a moment as Manuel Alinho, the FIA Vice President, steps forward with the trophies to hand first to third place drivers, a frustrated Fella, a disappointed Drudi. And for second, Albert Costa and Thierry Vermeulen, at best of the season. So close to a win. And actually, despite the fact that they came within a whisker of it, they don't look overly disappointed. They are delighted with that second place.
I think they knew that they had the pace, they had the car. They could have taken victory here, but for a slightly slower pit stop, one little error apparently in turn one from Albert Costa. It's what might have been, but the reality is you have to accept what was given on the day, so they're delighted with their second place. Looking forward, Albert Costa will be doing the qualifying tomorrow morning, so that car will at some point be either on the front row of the grid or very close to it.
So, top step of the podium for the combination of Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marciello, win number 4 of the season, and the celebrations will be underway. Qualifying tomorrow begins at 9 o'clock. And the grid for tomorrow's race will be set in that second session. Albert Costa then, having thrown everything at that, celebrates second place. And so near, but yet so far. With a decent qualifying tomorrow, could it be a win that the Ferrari craved today? We'll find out tomorrow afternoon. But for now, the top 3 teams overall celebrate on the podium. This is how we look in bronze, which remember is wrapped up this weekend. Alex Malikin is ahead now of Enrique Chavez with that penalty against the McLaren post race. Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos therefore just drop a little bit further away. Dennis Marchal still in the mix with Andre Munivos. Robert Renard is next with Ralph Bone. So that's going to be decided tomorrow. Bronze is going to be very interesting indeed. Alex Malikin will enter that last race of the year for the bronze drivers as the championship leader. So tomorrow 9 o'clock for the qualifying session for tomorrow's race, and whether that turns out to be a Mercedes victory, we shall find out, because it's been a really interesting race today, fascinating to watch, and a great drive by Albert Costa, leaving absolutely nothing on the table as he carved his way into the mix. Mercedes still leads the championship, courtesy of another win number 4 of the year for Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marciello. But tomorrow will be another day, it'll be another race and another opportunity for Matteo Drudi and Riccardo Fella will be able to perhaps fight back in the championship. Join us for race 2 tomorrow. For now, though, from Valencia, from Gemma Scott, John Watson and David Addison, it's goodbye.